we are live breaking down the ongoing potential snow event that's going on. Well, it is going to snow. Come in. It's going to be a vibe. Stay tuned. There is a chance. There is a chance for something to go on here that could be bigger than what's happening, but it's still a little bit too early to say. So come on in. It's going to be a vibe. I'm going to be breaking down what is going on. This is my channel. Let me get set up here completely. Just create my broadcast here on Twitter. Allow you guys to make sure you can chat. Let me open up the X chat. Let me open up the YouTube chat as well. Do all that fun stuff here. You guys can log in and allow me to see you as well. Also get my thumbnail set up. More YouTube viewers as well. Everybody, how are we doing? Getting started here. The new subscribers over the past couple days here. It's been awesome to see. Alright, there's my thumbnail. Let me open up the YouTube chat here. YouTube, how are we doing? How are we doing, YouTube? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Jamie, welcome. How are we doing? Ooh, music. Obama. Let's see. So take that. Alright, so we're going to be breaking this down here. We do RHP. New name, it sounds like. Welcome. How are you doing, my man? Again, if you're on YouTube, come on in, hit that like button. If you're an X, come on in. It's a vibe. YouTube X, whatever you prefer is whatever is better for you. And we're going to be breaking this down here and having some fun. So this is going to be a vibe. I think this is interesting. I think there's snow coming. And I think it's worth watching where and how much. So it was very, very, very simple. And the titles, it literally was meant to be what it is. So let me break this. Let me break this down here. Hold on, one more thing I'm setting up first. Let's let these people filter in here. Sorry, the mic's going to be sensitive, so you're going to hear the mouse for a second. Letting people filter in here, breaking this down here on this beautiful Wednesday night. So come on in. Let's found you on X, Southeastern Mass. Need some snow? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And Southeastern Mass is an interesting spot. So let's start breaking this thing down here. Let's get these people to filter in here on YouTube and on X, and let's get right into it now, though. Alrighty, that's the GFS. I have the name pulled up as well. We'll look at that, and the Euro will be coming out too. So we have a variety of models to look at. Here's the GFS. Compare it to 18Z, compare it to 12Z. The biggest thing I noticed is 12Z, 18Z, OZ is our trough is sinking more. Our trough is sinking a little bit more. So we're going to break down the analysis here first, what we got going on. We'll break down the details of, because we're starting to get closer now where it's like, all right, details are starting to become apparent, but we still have some mischief going on here, especially for southeastern New England, just a little bit at least. Again, this is not a guarantee, but there is a little bit of mischief going on with southeastern New England here. So when I look at this, I'm like, if you continue to dig your trough deeper, you'll definitely make things more interesting here. From Long Island to Cape Ann, you'll make things more interesting. And you'll also get a chance to amplify this inverted trough that sets up somewhere in here, and also there's kind of, it's kind of, the isobars invert a little bit, but it's honestly kind of a convergent zone a little bit more than a true inverted trough where you have a northeast flow, and then you also have this southwest flow here with your energy here that's coming from the southwest. And so the energy kind of moves over the vorticity here as we're looking at 500 millibar vort. It moves over, and then it potentially allows for this, for somewhere in here, then we look at potentially for another convergence or somewhere another locally enhanced area of snow to set up. And the more you dig this further south, the more you're going to wrap some of this in. This is a key. If we had more stream separation here, by the way, between these two pieces, we'd be talking about a big snowstorm right now for I-95. Absolutely, we would be if we had a little bit more stream separation, but we don't. So that's reality. But what I've been noticing here on some of these runs is we've been digging this trough a little bit more, and some of this, and we're allowing this to kind of start wrapping around the trough a little bit more efficiently, and this enhances our ability to get more snow in southeastern, farther southeastern New England. But also, I like the prospects of that for the Mid-Atlantic, kind of, not true Mid-Atlantic, but the fake Mid-Atlantic here. This Delmarva to, from, basically from Finger Lakes across central PA, somewhere in here, a little bit of an inverted trough sets up in the beginning, and it will kind of rot itself out as these dynamics come and move on through. Especially because this piece here has to come on through as well. I think that piece is a key part of this as well, because when I look at it, go from 18Z, OZ, the more again, we're not getting a ton of more stream separation here between our polar vortex and our system, but we are sinking our system a little bit more, a little bit deeper, and allows more of our energy to get more vertical versus caught out to the side. The less we dig with our trough, the flatter it is, the more it allows energy to get out to the side here. And part of that, we've been able to dig a little bit deeper. Our western ridge backed off today. I said if we were going to get this thing done here for any bulk precipitation to get into southeastern Mass, we were going to have to knock off this western ridge a little bit in one way or another. Again, the orientation, the shape, the bottom of our southeast ridge, I'll slide it over the 500 heights here. Slide on in. 500 heights. Appreciate everybody watching right now here on YouTube and on X. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, baby. It helps a ton. As we slide here, this is 500. Let me zoom out to North America. Take a look here. It's 18Z, OZ, and go from 12Z, 18Z, OZ. That ridge just ever so slightly backing off just a little bit, and just enough. A little bit. I like the angle of the ridge too. These height lines tilting a little bit farther this way over the past. Real minor changes in terms of that, but I look at all the minor details here that make a huge impact on every little thing. So I do look at that. We're not getting enough stream separation still, at least on the GFS, to really get enough. But I will say this is the GFS's worst nightmare of a storm to forecast here. I'm really only looking at the GFS right now at 500. You can look at the P-type map, sure, and the P-type map will reflect changes as well, at least on this run. But I could give two you-know-whats about the GFS and the P-type map. Yeah, this is the worst. This is the worst case scenario if you're a GFS fan here. This is the exact setup where the GFS will go to die, especially when, and it's even putting out a pretty good convergence zone still, even despite that out there. An enhanced area of snowfall out here. It's putting that out there. I don't know, did it do the same for Mid-Atlantic? Sound about. I don't know. It did something, right? It did something there. The Mid-Atlantic. I think it's underdoing I think that what we're seeing here, I went back and during the afternoon today, I went and tried to, can we expect the ocean? We'll talk about Boston in the details coming up, but the changes we've seen and what we're looking at in terms of the synopsis of what's going on. This really helps set this, and it makes it clear then for me to explain the details for you guys. So that's always how I like to do things. So keep throwing in the questions. You're in the YouTube. Hit that like button again. Helps so much. It's very appreciated if you can. And let me continue to break this down here. Celtics banner 19. So love a Celtics fan. Jason Tatum MVP, baby. Manny, yeah, I'll answer Philly, New York City second. But here's an important aspect here with convective feedback is typically I would look at this and we are getting shared out. This energy is getting out here, so it's almost going to be a double barrel potentially for a second here, where a surface low wants to pop somewhere around here, just southeast, where this up level low tries to consolidate, but it fails. But what you're seeing here is the more the more you sink your trough, the more vertical this energy gets out ahead. And that allows for that band. You see, there's a depth band that's going to set up here. And most models have suggested the whole time offshore, but the NAM has brought it onshore. John, what up, my brother? What up, my brother? Foxborough. Yeah, we'll talk about. To keep throwing all those questions. We'll talk about all those details. Hit that like button, baby. So this precip gets pulled in here a little bit more efficiently. A little bit more efficiently, it gets pulled up. And what this allows is that 700 band continues to creep. And now since it's come this far, it's going to, and we're strengthening the system. It's going to be hard to pull this thing further east. And instead it goes more northeast. It continues along this axis here. And that's what the NAM showed. And we'll look at the NAM in a second too. But the reason the GFS is going to struggle with this, is going to struggle over the next day or so regardless, is this is a bad system for the GFS. Now we are progressive. Remember these height lines out here, look how they're pointing positive. Right, they're pointing positive here, but we start to go neutral. Look at our 540. We're neutral here, and we end up tilting negative here at the bottom of our trough. But up here, we're tilting positive, right? Because this influence of the polar vortex here pressing on our system, and there's not enough stream separation for there to be an all-out snowstorm like we talked about with this system. And there's not enough stream separation between these two for this to slow down enough as well. So we've kind of come closer in terms of nailing down that aspect, but we're still trying to figure out here. And I think the Euro might do a little bit better in this aspect, but the Euro sometimes can struggle as well with convective feedback issues significantly. And then so as this happens, notice you can see how strong here at 500 we are on the GFS. You see how strong that vort is? It's a strong piece of 500 millibar energy to work with here. And then that is going to start to take off. This ends up becoming the main show, and then you get the surface low. It's going to want to pop right after all this has moved through now. It's going to want to consolidate further southeast. And some of the models, I think, are pushing this surface low too far east now. Even though we're a little broad, we're tilting negative here at the bottom with our main energy down here. And so all of this out here starts getting progressive, but I think we wrap our flow in a little bit more efficiently. And if this out here, this convection, we can wrap this a little bit further and set the stage, maybe far southeastern Mass and Cape Cod can get into the action. So that's kind of there, right? And you don't need high pressure to be able to make. You don't need high pressure in this. You do have high pressure as farther north, but you do have your east. What you have here is you have your easternly. You have my man. There's an easterly ridge like right here. I'm sorry, like you can clearly see there's an easterly ridge. There's clearly an easterly ridge. That's what's stopping it. This stream interaction here is your problem. Why the flow gets progressive. Like that's easy to point out. That's ridges and troughs right there. So we can go back and forth again if we want tonight, but I'm not going to do that. So all this gets caught out here, when this flow is we're still tilting positive, so you can see all this kind of gets sheared off. But how much can we consolidate and pull in, and then maybe Cape Cod and Islands, maybe if you saw something crazy, it would go farther, maybe like the NAM, but that would be a kind of more of an extreme scenario, because the NAM's kind of like that crazy uncle we talk about. But I think models are, it's very easy to see here that models, I think, typically I would look at this and go, just east of the upper level energy here. Again, it's hard to say where exactly, given that the surface level wants to consolidate here, but I'll get back to that in a second. There's convection out here. Models are going to want to start placing the surface low and increase, trying to push the surface low to be there on some models. So it's going to try to enhance this convection here too much when this is the main show right here. This part right here is the main show. That's what's coming through, and eventually you can see that does take over, but it does get enhanced, and that upper level low gets kind of stretched out, and you see an area of right here. You see this area to potentially watch here for maybe some snow. Just looking at 500 there on the GFS, I would say theoretically it's possible to get into that area. And then that upper level low, starts to take off here. And I typically I would look on the eastern side here of this upper level energy, where this somewhere along here, the surface low will start to push back and try to sit into this area here. And if we look at the GFS, and then the low pressure will start to sit back. But again, you see where I drew it. It places the L here, but relatively, and that's just the heater, don't worry. It will start to she slows down the system, and it eventually gets picked up. So I think it's a little bit too far northeast eventually with the upper level energy, but you can see we do struggle to consolidate here at 500, regardless. So it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be way too hard to get some magic thing to happen, especially really most like anything west of here. It's basically game over for any random chance for that. But remember, this precip shield is going to be pretty expansive here, and we look at a potential convert. GFS, does highlight this kind of out ahead, especially out ahead. You have this northeast flow and all this upper level energy that's moving through here from the southwest, and these isobars invert just a little bit enough to get some inverted trough to show up here, potentially somewhere in New York City, southern upstate New York, down to PA and New Jersey. And then right here is another area to watch too, maybe southern and central New England to keep an eye on. It could start as rain too for some people as well. Just keep an eye on that. But everybody finishes as snow as the colder air from the backside. You can see your high pressure. It's right here, and it's kind of this. If we had this high pressure more stronger across, this would be a little bit different of a scenario. But you can see your high pressure here and your high pressure here and behind the system, and all this cold air kind of comes on through and injects itself into the system, and that's really what where your best ratios will be, especially towards the end of the storm. In the beginning of the storm might be a little more of a wetter snow, you'll notice, and then after for those to get it. And again, we're not talking about major accumulations, especially for the mid-Atlantic, but did someone get, are we talking, 1 to 3 with maybe some people getting more than a few inches, somewhere in here in this inverted trough? We snow for hours. Is it, eastern PA? Where does the best where does the best of it set up? And that's kind of what I look at here on this system. And then and also the convergence zone that comes through after that I'm looking at. Right here, this pocket here. I'm telling you, keep an eye on that. That region right there, or that's a region to keep an eye on. I think there could be like a good 1 to 3, and then potentially a swath, an area of 3 to 6 plus, somewhere in there potentially. It's a little too early to say. The only caveat here is a crazy if we go all nuclear and we keep doing what the NAM does, that's the only way. So we can break down the NAM, because why not? It's just breaking down the models. Again, models are not what's going to happen. Models are tools to use as pieces. In fact, they're going to, all the solutions you see right now are going to be wrong, by the way. Every one you see, it's not, no matter what you see, it's going to be wrong. So that's just a heads up. We'll see which one is the least amount of wrong. That's basically how it works. These are tools to make the forecast. And that's all I do, and I try to do, and give you guys the best forecast I can, and relay all the different scenarios that are possible to make sure that we cover them all. And most of the time we do, even if I'm wrong in what I think is most likely. So before, let me read some stuff off here. If you're in the YouTube, hit that like button, baby. Keep hitting that like button. Huge. Let's read off X. Banana high. Yeah, that would have been nice. That would have been nice. Would have been a just widespread too. Late to the party, you say West Trend is maxed out. You'd have to explain when the cutters start as close as someone said. I didn't say the West Trend was over. I just, kind of laid out a read. I think it's, there's too much that's going to be difficult. This is not an interior southern New England thing whatsoever, really. I mean, the American, all the OZs get the sampling. I'm just, you gotta put caution tape over the NAM anytime you look at it. I didn't say the NAM would never happen. I just said the NAM is always prone to being a little bit inaccurate at oftentimes. Tends to sometimes over amplify, sometimes it under amplifies the main show, and right here the NAM would probably have a bias at times to latch onto this. So that's why you kind of see it go back and forth sometimes. But again, your path is, you can look at the last, go back here, I go back to 06, look at the last 4 runs. 12Z sunk the trough more, 18Z sunk it more, OZ sunk it just a little bit more, and then boom, magic happens. And that's really, this is your key. This is how you get it done. The NAM is like and that's why I kind of like the NAM. I don't like it as in terms of saying it's going to happen, but I like having it to show like this is a possible scenario here, and that's why I like having a little bit of spread. I'm glad, Mike. I'm glad you appreciate all the streams. Try to teach 500 millibars, because that's where the magic happens. Above the surface, the P-type maps is where people mess up, and those are not meant to be forecast. They're also 6-hour intervals of total precipitation, not radar, so people mess up that as well. But everybody's learning. It's fine. I'm not perfect either. I'm far from it, in fact. Definitely not. But the NAM is a good tool. I like having a little bit of a spread in terms of possible scenarios. I do kind of like that, and then it allows me to kind of take in the data and see, all right, what are we looking at really here? And here on the NAM, we really dig nice, and we're strong here at the base of our trough too. This 500 energy is strong, but it's able to amplify this energy out ahead just enough and further north to where that instead of getting caught and getting lost out here further out to sea, it gets pulled in out ahead furthermore, and allows at 700 those mid-level dynamics consolidate out ahead. And look what you get at 700. You get a death band that sets up right here. This is your death band. It comes so far, in fact, it's like right over Cape Cod. It's over southeastern Mass and Cape Cod directly into Long Island. You get a death band to set up on the NAM, which is there's going to be that band's going to set up. All the models have hinted, but look at that. That thing is in beginning stages and then almost pivots out of there, and it's until it decays basically, until it starts to consolidate further northeast again. So this is an interesting factor. And even if you don't, this convection out ahead, notice this convection out ahead, this northeast flow here, and all of this coming from the southwest here is creating an area of convergence right somewhere in here in southeastern New England, and it doesn't matter if you believe the NAM or not. There's don't if you miss the point, don't look at you guys have to stop looking at models as forecasts. Like that's a lot of don't I'm not going off on the person that said this, but it makes me for a really good point. You have to stop looking at models as forecasts. They're not forecasts. They're tools to use to make the forecast. Yes, the model is trying to predict something, but these are not forecasts. And that's how people mistake. They think that this is not what's going to happen. Like models are not like they're just not. They're going to be wrong, but they're illustrating a specific scenario. Even within the model, it may not be depicting the scenario that's actually happening. And it's my job and other people's on this platform to try to break it down to understand what is really happening and where are we going for the day of the storm. I've tracked this thing now for like a week. I've tracked it way too long for the day of the storm. That's all that matters. And that's how I take this process. And that's how I do this process every single time, because that's been the most effective way I've found. It is the most effective way for sure. I think forecasting for what's happening the day of versus looking at the models and being like, that's the current forecast. That's where a lot of people mess up. This is not the current forecast. You have an array of models and you have to use them as tools, put the puzzle pieces together and figure out what's going to happen. And that's the key. That's the key. So you can talk about all you want about what's happening around here, here, and here, and what's happening, and that all plays a part. But you can simply look at 500 volt and get an idea of what's happening here. This energy is going to get pulled up. It's going to get pulled up. It's going to be enhanced here from this convection that's out ahead, and it enhances along out in front of the main area of our trough, and it allows this comes in. You're getting straight southwest flow of moisture now from these upper level dynamics and a northeast wind here, and that's going to create somewhere enhanced in here. I'm telling you, there's gonna be some snow that breaks out across this area. And then we look at potentially those isobars inverting a little bit, so some of this moisture gets pushed out into here more. And if one way this doesn't develop, if those isobars do not invert as much, then you will not get as prolific as an inverted trough. You will not. But the more your energy is able to consolidate further southwest, the more of an inverted trough you get here. It's somewhere in here, from New York City to northern mid-Atlantic. Basically, New York City to DC is where I'm looking at for somewhere for that inverted trough to set up. And then out ahead of the system, you get somewhere, and then on the backside, as this comes through as well, then you look at maybe another area of locally enhanced snow that moves through across here. So you can tell me whatever you want about the prospects of the main bulk of the precipitation, but that is going to happen. That's happening. And so this comes through, and you're able to get some snow to set up right here. And I've been talking about these two areas now for like 3 days. We've been talking about these two areas for 3 days, maybe 4 days. Okay. Bernie is great as well. Bernie, Billy, there's a lot of good people out there that break this stuff down. So this comes around, and the NAM just really gets it going here. And at 700, you can see it happens to show that band setting right over basically Nantucket, and actually on Cape Cod. So this thing would dump always just northwest. This thing would dump right there if the NAM were 100% accurate. But that's not the final solution. If you keep the trend going, then maybe. And this maybe could be the NAM convective feedback a little bit better too, potentially. Really consolidates the energy more efficiently than other models do out ahead of your upper level low. And so you get a surface low that's more tucked and closer on the NAM. That is why you saw what you saw on the NAM. So appreciate everybody here in the YouTube chat. That like button, baby, helps me a lot. If you're enjoying the analysis here on X, let's read off a few more comments here on X and YouTube. We can ensembles start to become a little bit less helpful, but we can look at them as well. Then a stronger, more consolidates phonetic takeaway from the IVT. Thought you said that yesterday. I said potentially. If that happened out further northeast, then yeah, it would. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Well, that's the NAM P-type map. You can see lots of fun. In fact, I think in that scenario, it's not even pulling the heaviest. The heaviest snow would be in southeastern Mass on that run. It'd be right. That's where the heaviest snow would be. We're looking at that verbatim, but right there. But that's just that. That's the NAM run. All right, thanks for your input, my guy. Let's see, that's I don't know. I can't really make anything of the that is not to use. I was seeing if there was something. We can look at the panels, see if there are. Go to the United US regions, New England here. Surface, winter. What would have to happen for you to get excited? I am excited about this. I am very excited about it. I'm gonna probably get some snow. I'm excited. That's really it. I see monotone because I'm breaking down stuff. I stream for like 2 hours. It is hard to keep an upbeat when I'm breaking down weathers. I try. The more monotone I am, that means the less up and down. I'd rather be kind of. I'm not an official meteorologist, so I don't put on the sunny smile for the whole time, even though I am happy. But answer your question, an all-out blizzard, that would kind of do it. That always makes me kind of happy. Jeff's is interesting. There's a fair amount of southeastern New England hits actually on the Jeffs. One. Kinda. Scraper, just barely. There's a miss. Just barely missed. There's one. There's one. Kind of. There's one. Definitely one. Just missed. So you can see there's a fair amount. I guess the pink wasn't maybe the best color to use on top. There's a fair. Oh, I didn't include. I guess that one's kind of. This one. This one. This one. So the Jeffs is highlighting that it's possible southeastern New England here that keep an eye on, and even there's some scrapers too here. So Cape Cod Islands, southeastern New England. Just keep a close eye on this, even though again 06Z runs have been notorious for going back the other way. So we can find out what happens with that. But I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what happens here with this for the southeastern New England aspect of it. But then you can see the model showing. You can see that convergence zone kind of set up on a lot of these runs here. Boom, boom. All right, all the models are talking about. They see this spot here, right here. So you can highlight it on all the models here. It looks like it's a little bit further north on this one. It's here on this one as well. So you can see I pointed out like almost like 3/4 of these runs. Let's see, we got 30. What I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 18, maybe almost like nearly 2/3 of these highlighting that area. And so it really doesn't matter, right? The fact, even though your low pressure is pretty far off the sea, you still get this area to go off. So right, all people care about, right? Nobody really cares about like how all you care about, like realistically, if the low pressure was 900 miles and you were getting snow, it's not likely possible. But if you were, like, would you really be complaining? No, you're getting snow. That's all you care about. It's how much snow can you get, and that's all you care about. And so you've got an opportunity here, and this is 10-1 as well. Especially the second half of the system, it's going to get colder, and especially away from the coast in here, it's going to be a greater. You can't see that with that small, no way, but away from the coast. So this is the region kind of we're looking at for this. This is kind of where we're looking at. Away from the coast, especially, it's going to be above 10-1 for the second half duration of this event. But that won't fail. That will fail to happen if you were to get something more crazy. So like you still get your inverted trough here, right, on the NAM, but that convergence zone. So that's kind of what I was talking about, Mike. This doesn't set up as much if this takes off, for example. So if you do see a NAM-like scenario and it takes off, that's how it happens. So again, the NAM is always out there. I don't show I don't show it to be like this is what's going to happen. We're just highlighting this is one of the more extreme scenarios. But again, we can see it on the GFS. There's some motion to suggest it's possible. There's some motion to suggest it is technically possible. You had maybe a couple of more bigger hits on there, but you had a good amount of consistent southeastern New England scrapers. So and the GFs only become so helpful as we get closer. They're just demonstrating. It can just demonstrate the range of scenarios to happen. I really don't become too concerned about like the mean as we get closer here. But I do like to see the different scenarios of what can happen and how models can kind of go about to highlight what could be happening. Well, people are requesting the UKMET. I guess we can look at that. It is a time ago. It was a valued model. It was. I'm not sure how much anymore. Actually, let me read some questions first. Thoughts about Philly NYC corridor. I'm not as optimistic as I was yesterday because of the warm air trends. I don't know about warm air trends. It's really about timing. I mean, I noted that close to the coast might start out as rain for some people close to the coast, but outside of there, it likely is going to be snow, especially toward after, especially as more cold air is working through. In the beginning, it might be. You can see that cold air takes over. Cold air does take over. And again, this shows, especially after the storm comes through, we get coldest temps of the year are coming. CT got any chance? CT can that kind of area, that pocket, that enhanced area I'm looking at. That's one spot I'm looking at for Connecticut. Southwest Connecticut might be a snow hole. Southwest Connecticut might be a snow hole, possibly with this event. It's possible. Maybe some mood flakes, but accumulation is not necessarily what I'm looking at. Yeah, I'm going to look at the UKMET in a second. Mid-Atlantic might have a problem with warm air, so New England could do well. But I have not liked gold. Mesoscale versus gold. A little bit. RGM highlights it. We can pull up the RGM too. We'll look at the UKMET first, but let me pull up the RGM. RGM's been like a little bit somewhat consistent on this too. RGM's been highlighting that zone that I'm talking about. But here's the Yuki. Appreciate everybody in the YouTube and X chat. If you're in the YouTube, consider hitting that like button, baby. Helps a ton. Helps a ton. And yeah, Yuki is oof. Yuki is that's 12Z. I already looked at that earlier today. OZ not out. Nothing to look at there. Oh, Foxborough, yeah. In a NAM scenario, you could get a significant amount. Otherwise, I would look at a more of a lighter event where that enhancement area comes through. In this region, and then swings through eventually. You could start as a little bit. You could start as a little bit of rain in Foxborough, maybe southeastern Mass again. Southeastern New England could start as a little bit of rain. Yeah, this is kind of the ocean effect I'm talking about. Ocean effect after the storm is possible. Some accumulation could happen there. That could be something to keep an eye on. I noticed as well. So you could watch out for some ocean effect after the storm moves through. The Reggie will show that a little bit. You can see that area that moves through, a little bit of enhancements, potentially some ocean effect Saturday and Sunday. Yes, it's definitely possible after the system. But the Reggie, kind of highlights what I'm talking about. So you should maybe start as a little bit of rain, but you finish as snow, and you'll kind of rot out. But I mean, that's hours. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 12 plus hours of snow for some people. Snow just sitting, and it's light. It's lighter to moderate. Stacks up. It does stack up. It does stack up. Am I making a snow map? Undecided. First of all, I need to fix my Photoshop, because all of a sudden I've never had a scratch disk issue whatsoever, and I did not. I need to fix that if I'm going to make a snow map. Undecided if I will. I'll have a better idea tomorrow. This is the 12Z. I don't have the OZ. I mean, maybe Pivotal has it. Maybe Pivotal has the OZ. I do. All right, we can look at it on Piv. There's an 18Z UKMET too. Oh, I didn't even know that. Weather bell. You gotta get it. You gotta get up to date. Let's see. Yuki. Interesting. Yuki really enhances that area out in front. Yuki really enhances that area out in front. That's where the magic happens. See how it matches on the P-type map. Yuki's still struggling with some convective feedback, though. He's definitely struggling to tight and wrap it. Some convective feedback there. Yeah, Yuki's like it is like an RGM kind of, but I think it struggles to wrap early on. Not too strong enough with the. I think this. I looked at the P-type map yesterday too. It was like dog water. So I don't know what too much to make of this, but you can just, in terms of the precipitation, you can see Maybe not a terrible not a terrible idea, but that model will definitely not handle thermal. So don't look at the rain snow on that. There, the Euro. Let's see if the Euros came out yet. Well, not yet. It should be out. It should initialize any second. We can look at the 18Z though on the Euro. So the 18Z Euro was interesting as well. We did similar. Wasn't all that different, but you noticed able area out in front. Go back to pink. Area out in front again gets enhanced a little bit more. Boom, that area that able again, it might be a little bit of rain for some people initially. Euro does not show that good enough. Euro at 500 does not match a Euro at P-type. Should start tucking. That's where I would put the surface low too. I think models a lot, especially the globals. The Euro is actually don't hold me to that on the new Euro. I gotta actually ask some questions about that. But a little bit, I think models are pulling this surface low too far north in east originally. You gotta remember the main area, our main area of the trough is still back here. This is it out here. If this were all consolidated and ripped back here, this would be an upper level low tracking right here, and it would be an all-out snowstorm for I-95. It would be an all-out snowstorm. But we're still too progressive. We're just not solid enough. Again, we've highlighted all the different pieces between our westerly ridge and all that's been going on there. But if there's one takeaway I have with this too, it's that the AI models are here to stay. They passed the test on this one big time. They've been super consistent with like a coastal scraper for like days now, and they haven't really wavered run to run too much. This is the graph cast from 12Z earlier today, and they get the Brady pass of approval here. Stamp of approval. Jeez. These models have been fantastic, and I don't think they're really going to be super useful so close up, but they have been fantastic. They have been doing this for days now. The GraphCast GFS, and then you can look at the Euro AI. I think the P-type map is a little wonky on the Euro AI, but 500 volt, it's been doing this. I mean, that's a little bit of a change, but it's been fairly consistent, and it's been like this for days now. It's changed, but the GraphCast was initially a little bit stronger and kind of held on to that. But Euro AI has been consistent now for days, and it's going to struggle. This is like an ensemble preset map almost, so it's not going to depict it perfectly, but these models pass the eye test for sure to match with the statistical data on this one at least. Maybe initially we're holding on just a little bit too long, but they stayed way more consistent. Way more consistent. They did not waffle back and forth the same that our other global models did. So whatever happens with this event, the takeaway with that, I'm going to be using the GFS in the AI. especially 500 millibars. I'm going to be using those going forward for sure. All right, that OZ Euro out yet? Not yet. Jeez, coming in late. The Euro comes in, I swear, at a different time every night on Weatherbell. Or is Weatherbell behind right now? It didn't have the UKMET. Let me look at PIV. Let's take a look at Pivotal here. Nope. So doesn't. Euro is possibly delayed then. Let me slide back here to. No, we'll go RGEM. Look, all I know is I'm used to windshield wiper effect models back and forth every 6 hours. The changes with this storm seem more consistently closer to the coast. Most runs last 40 hours. I would agree. I think that's a fair assessment that over like the last 60 hours or so, we have seen a shift after going pretty far out. We've seen models kind of pull it back in. The key is how soon can we kind of start to go neutral negative here with our trough. Even though we can't consolidate it fully because it gets pulled, all this is skin pulled out, so it can't really officially consolidate. Even though we do have this flow off the ocean here from the east northeast, but how much more can we dig our trough? You want to know how we can make this, especially if you live in southern New England. I think regardless that IVT is locked in for somewhere in the mid-Atlantic to some extent. I think there's still some opportunity for this to change a little bit maybe, but not a great. The area that's most up in the air, literally with time and just in regards to the storm, is New England. Absolutely, especially southeastern New England. When I look here at the RGM, I'm wondering how far here at the base, how much more can we get the base of this trough to dig? And you can see here at the RGM, this actually gets pretty well connected. Starts to get stretched out, and see this area develop here. We see this area of energy kind of consolidate along a line almost right here, and then allows again this enhancement of precip. I would love to see this happen a little bit further southwest and converge a little bit more, because that would also, there's more cold air back here to allow it to sink. So it's really not so much a warmer, the warmer thing. Yes, I see. We'll talk. We can actually. That's a good point. We can look at the straps in a second. Wait, in regards to this system, the reason why it looks like warmer now on some of the P-type maps, we talked about it either last night or the night before, is this is warm air. You got to know where your air source here is going to be cold always. Anything that comes or here is going to be warm. This is warm air, guys, right here. Even though we're amplifying our system, it is warm. It's an injection of warm air into our system that pushes up, and this area gets amplified thanks to this warm air source here. So that's why a little bit, but your main system back here is your supply of cold air, and that does. And the more, and I've said this, the more you do dig this further south and amplify further southwest, the NAM highlights it perfectly. And the NAM will do better on thermals than any of the globals as well. GFS do not rely on that for that P-type map. I'm telling you guys look at the P-type map. It's really fun to get. It's a great way to get people invested in models in the beginning. I'm all for more people in weather, but if you're here to stay, like, you got to get away from the P-type maps. Their think is happening. They are skewing what you think is happening. Models are tools. Models are tools. They are not forecasts, and that is where people get misguided all the time. This is not exactly what is regarded here at the flag. It's just it's blah, it's blah. 6-hour intervals, and it's the averaged precip rate over a 6-hour interval. That's the mistake that gets made. Radar sometimes is a little bit better, but even then, that's the current snapshot of what happens. That's our, and that's not even what happens. It's just blech. It's blech. I can't use that for forecast. And the GFS is going to be a significant convective feedback. It's going to want. I can show you guys what I'm talking about. This convection here on 500. I think I think models are going to struggle. If you want to know why I think models might have one of the worst, like if historically bad, if we were to see a historically bad scenario of modeling like setup, that wasn't the best way to phrase it. But if models were like to completely F up here, it would be because I can almost guarantee you this would be one of the most important reasons, is because models kept amplifying the surface low of this convection out here way too much, holding on to it and not allowing the surface low to consolidate close enough to the main energy that is back there. And so as this gets closer, before I show you the P-type map, it keeps holding on to the surface loads for too long here versus here, and it's a later wrap of the consolidation, and then it gets more sheared out. Even though we still have a progressive flow here to the north, it gets more sheared out. Than it should. And so you can see it here on the P-type map. You'll understand exactly what I'm saying. You see it's going to put you see this low pressure here? We have two low pressures. It really wants to enhance this area and have this try to take off more than it should versus all your upper level back here. Keep playing this out. So now this is like off the screen basically now. It's like off the screen, and it takes some of this with it. And so this area out ahead, you see it start to amplify. But models, I'm telling you, with convective feedback, they struggle with this. And look, it's still holding on. I mean, there is going to be convection here. Like, this is just a reality. It won't tuck all of it. So it will still be. It's not going to fully wrap into the system at a very efficient rate. But P-type map will not do it justice here, and the low pressure is going to want to hold on to this versus look at this, all your upper level energy is going to be back here. And since there of convergence forming out ahead of it, the surface low will pop out there originally, and it'll almost be a little barrel look. And I think the UKMET shows that kind of well. And you see an area of enhanced precip, of heavy precip, that's stretched out along this area. And that initially was the reason I was so intrigued about this storm, is because that was the setup. And that's what you have when you have an easternly and a westerly ridge, or you have an easterly ridge back here and your westerly ridge here. It's forcing a lot of precip to shoot north. That was really, but we didn't get the stream separation we needed to get a significant snow. Here's where your upper level energy is. Right here. That's where it's strongest. That's where it's strongest. And look where your. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, because again, this is still too progressive. But typically you would see a surface low pop like here, and a lot of times if you consolidate all this further southwest, and then this would have been a snowstorm, guys. All snowstorm. But it's not. It's not. But I think models are going to take off way too much with this. They're going to amplify this convection a little bit too much, especially the globals, in particular the GFS, and not wrap this in efficiently enough. Because the base of our trough does tilt negative eventually. But it's tricky. It's like a 2-for-1 trough. positive. All right, and so this gets caught out ahead, and this keeps going. So once all this, because this easterly ridge traps this precipitation, and it gets going out here, and instead of this coming fully up, it continues to move off like this versus tuck. The NAM isn't. I know the NAM, like people, it doesn't actually. It does a brief tuck. The NAM does a brief tuck, and I can highlight that. No, go back. NAM 12K. The NAM does a brief tuck eventually, like right there. But you can see then it keeps going, and it gets pulled up as if, but then you can see it goes out right there. There's your almost tuck, and then gets pulled out. And eventually this storm's strong enough to bat the western part of that ridge out and gets pulled up here to the northeast. Based on historical look at, I think there's some convective feedback, and I think that area, that's when I said like there could be surprises. Like I wasn't trying to be cryptic. I literally think this area in here could have some surprises in snowfall totals, where it's a strong, you're gonna wrap a little bit better. I'm not saying you're going, whole trough doesn't go full tilt negative, and you wrap all this in. We're not looking at an all-out snowstorm for I-95 and northwest of I-95. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at out ahead of this trough. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm talking a general. I'm just using the name to highlight what I'm talking about. I can use any model to make this point. What I'm making here. Not to sound dismissive, but I'm telling you, this area here, there's going to be an enhancement area right in there, where it's almost like the edge of the precip shield getting enhanced. Basically, is what we can kind of call it. The back edge of the storm gets enhanced, and allows precip, because there's no pressing. It's not like you have a confluent pressing on it, making it hard. All this gets expanded out here. There's no ridge blocking over this area right now. So you don't have to worry about and not having an expansive precip shield. That's far from the problem. Far from the problem. 4 to 8 interior southern New England. I don't know if I'm ready to go that far yet. But it's possible. I'm telling you, like, this is a sneaky. Yeah, well, look at the stress, guys. This is it's a sneaky area that I think some people that is going to be missed in a forecast. I could be wrong, but listen, this is my job. I got a forecast based on what I'm seeing and how I think this plays out. I did it with the last storm too. I was like, I think this is going to do more than what most people have. And it worked out. It doesn't work out always. If I don't see how it can happen, then I'm not going to make that forecast. I'm just not. But this is what I honestly think is going to happen. I've seen enough now to be like, I think we've been talking about that double area of snow potentially, regardless of what happens offshore. I'm very convinced now that that's gonna take place somewhere in here, somewhere in there. And VT, as this swings through too on the backside, this will produce some snow on Saturday potentially as well. But man, it's so frustrating. times can you have a strong, this is a super strong upper level low here. How many times can you have that strong and upper level low and be like, and this thing's not going to tuck? Man, it's just, you can see it's too broad. This trough is too broad in order to do that. So I think that's what a lot of people are misunderstanding when I talk about this system. I've never implied once that there's an all-out snowstorm that's going to happen. Not once. Not once. I try to be very careful with my wording. But the NAM highlights, that potential scenario that happens in that case, it would be like, it would Boston to Central Long Island, Cape Cod to the eastern area here on the NAM. It'd be a crush job. It would be an easy 6 to 12 plus. That's one of the more extreme scenarios. Not a full blockbuster, but it's a good crush job if you ask me. Let me check, before I check the SREFs, I want to check the Euro to see if we got to be initialized. Right, there we go. Are you kidding me? You're always out by now. All right, we'll check the SREFs. Wait for the Euro to come out. I did look at the SREFs. And they're wild. They're wild. I'm not gonna. You guys are gonna look at them and be like, whoa. So this will combine the interior as well. These totals. This will combine the interior and these totals as well. But I mean, yeah, they guys are wild. The SREFs are. They're definitely wild. Those are the SREFs right there. No. I gotta spell it out. Not a forecast. Boom. Not a forecast, but the SREFs are definitely the SREFs are juiced, and this is some of this is interior snow tonight. I don't know how that worked out. By the way, I've been so caught up in tracking this system, but it's the last 3 runs of the last 4 runs of the SREFs. NAM Ensemble here. They're fun. They're fun to look at. Appreciate everybody here in YouTube. If you haven't already, please hit that. If you love the analysis, or even just somewhat like it, it's fine. If you don't love it, hit that like button. It helps. It really helps a ton. The expansion, guys, has been great. We've since the season started, we've added we've had over 80 subscribers. 80 new subscribers, and most of them, over the last couple of weeks. Over the last couple of weeks here, so it's been awesome. You can see the YouTube. We're expanding. We're expanding here on YouTube. We're gonna keep going live. We cover all the big storms. If you're new here, we cover all the big storms. So always come on in. More people, the better. CMC. Let's see if the Euro. We can talk about Christmas. Don't worry, my focus is still on this system, but I did get a chance to look at Christmas today a little bit, just a little bit. All right, Euro's talking. We can briefly talk about Christmas. There is a Christmas storm to watch. Not a big one, not a massive one. At least I don't think so. Potentially, but we do see like a kind of we do see. Excuse me. We have a southeast ridge here, and a bit of a boundary potentially that's set up. and this energy here gets flattened out because you have a high pressure in place out ahead. You have strong, your coldest, right? This is the cold air out ahead of the system, and so then you got to watch. Then you got to watch this area potentially for some light to moderate snow accumulations. Not sure how well the GFS shows it on this run. You can see it's still there, kind of. Canadian people are requesting the Canadian with this. Yeah, it really just gets along that boundary. You have a, I mean, here's the thing. It's not about low pressure. People think, oh, it's not a strong low pressure. It's not. You do not need strong low pressure for a snowstorm. For reference, guys, December 17th, 2020. This was, I think this peaked at 995 and really came across like low 1000s, high 990s. 4 feet of snow, just to make a point. 4 feet, widespread, 30 to 48 inches there in that band, widespread. So I think that really best illustrates my point. You do not need strong low pressure to be a snowstorm. So there is something intriguing. There is definitely something intriguing. I would have to look more at this, but definitely intriguing when you have your cold air in place here, and models will underestimate the CAD. You have a strong, you have good cold air, and it's a strong, you have better cold air than we had with the previous CAD event we had on Monday. People in Pennsylvania and New York and some interior places remember that one earlier this week. It was good, 2 to 5 inches out here. Some, I think 6.5 was the highest total I saw. So this event happens, and you have, look at this. This is deep tropical moisture out ahead. If it could be interesting if you're able to get a little bit more of that sooner. Take a look here. You have that southeast ridge. So you have your you have this warm source of moisture here that comes in, and it sets up along this boundary. And now you have your CAD. You have a better placement too. Your CAD was a little bit too far east to hold that much. Jeez, the pen tool is slow right now. And you have, look at that. It's a 1042 high. It's a 1042 high, and now this comes in, and it gets in this area. You create a nice little zone of convergence here, where this warm air meets this cold air that's out ahead of the system, and it really is able to create a nice little convergence zone right along here. It almost reminds me of that. What was that one in 2015? I can only remember the Weather Channel name. Sorry, don't get me. It was Linus. I just remember it. I knew all the names when I was younger. I remember that one, and I think it redeveloped and was like more of a big time snowstorm, but it was like a cross country, like widespread, like double digits, like from Chicago to freaking Boston. It was 10 to 20 inches. You really hard to see that nowadays, especially very rare. But you have this is a setup here, and I became a little bit more intrigued with this today. You have your cold air out here. You have your warm air you're tapping into. This isn't a matter of a strength of low pressure. This is a matter of placement of a boundary and how much moisture you can pull up, and the placement of your high pressure as well. Because now you can see how this is the same latitude here. This is farther north here on the lakes. You can see that, right? You can see that right on the lakes. This is farther latitude. Yet, why is New York City snowing? And yet, that's the power of the CAD. That's the location of your high pressure right over. And models will go back and forth on handling the CAD there. But there is definitely something. You can see the GEM maybe overtakes it a little bit, but you can get the idea that something is there, and then as soon as your CAD departs, it's only a matter of time at that point before you get some sort of cutter that happens after that. Basically, after that storm, whatever system moves through, whatever moves through here, it's gonna, that CAD, unless you could really, a farther western CAD is possible maybe. I mean, it is a strong high pressure to try to kick out, but otherwise, we're likely after this we do see a warm up briefly, and there probably will be at least 2 during that time frame. Maybe the last week of December into maybe the first week of January, and after that we might take off again. Just to give some perspective on that. So that's why you're like, there's no strong. Where's the low pressure? It's like you don't need that necessarily. It's not necessary to get a good amount of snow. Let's look at the Euro. That provides some. Let's see. I think in Quincy we got 8 to 10, and that storm is very nice to see just before Christmas. I don't think I was talking about that one, Celtics banner 19, Jason Tatum, but I don't think that was the one I was talking about. This was the 2015 winter, and it was late. It was the February. It was the Super Bowl storm. There we go. That's how the Patriots won the Super Bowl, and I got a snowstorm the next day. It was I got school off. It was the greatest day of my life. Patriots, Super Bowl, no school, and a snowstorm as a kid. Oh, the 2021. You're talking about that one. Then quit. Yeah. Okay, that one. Yeah. Believe it or not, people actually technically still had a white Christmas from the snowpack, but it was 60 degrees and rain. Yeah, Jay, we're looking at the Euro right now. Let's see. Interesting. So the Euro, another positive. Look at that. Curve trough a little bit more here on OZ. Pulled a little bit in. The Euro is going to be a little bit better. Look at that. Let's see the P-type map. Wonder if it shows up. Kind of. Oh yeah, that's a big difference. Look at that. 18Z to OZ, huge difference. Look how much it moved the low pressure too. Moved the low pressure like friggin' 80 miles at least, maybe more. It's a 6-hour change. It's a 6-hour change, like 2 days out. That's 48 hours out. I mean, just goes to show. And that's the P-type map. And the Euro actually does kind of set something up. I want to see what. All right, Euro. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. Do not play with me now. Oh no, I don't want to go that close. East. Whereas I still think the P-type would be a little sketchy on this, but let me go to Upper Air Heights 700. I wonder what 7. I gotta go back to US. It's too close for me. I like to see the bigger picture. I got a big screen too. My setup is awesome, so I got a big screen wide that I can see. That's a huge difference there. That's a huge change at 18Z. That's a massive change 18OZ. If you did 2 more ticks to that extent, it would be a NAM. Right now, you're heavy. The Euro has this heavy snow band right here. Just misses Nantucket basically, or maybe it fringes. Very close. Very close. See whether compare it to the GFS. I want to see where we're at though with those 2 models. I could give 2 craps about that. As as bad as the GFS was, interior snow. I guess it is. All right. As bad as that, or as weird as that GF, not as bad as the convective feedback in the GFS. Still, like does like 3 to 5 inches on that road for that pocket I'm talking about. I don't. It's hard to say how localized to that area it will be. A dusting is enough for me here in northwestern North Carolina. Alejandro, where you at? Where are you from in North? Are you up? Are you elevated in the mountains? Let me go to, yeah. This Euro was up. Yeah, that. Listen, if you're holding out any hope in southeastern New England, there's definitely that is definitely the run to run change that you see in terms of amount of movement and the direction you had. It was a positive for sure. If you're this kind of region right here, and even with the convective feedback at 2,900 feet, yeah, that'll do. You should get something. Northwest flow off the mountains there, you should get something. But this area here, I would say I'm starting to lean a little bit towards that. There could be something there. But you do need to tuck a little bit further southwest where more of that cold air will be as well. So if I slide back to United States of America, we go 700. Let's compare. What was that? 57, 48. What the? It's way different. 48 on the GFS. Yeah, Yo consolidates it a little bit better than the GFS does. Euro is also a higher resolution than the GFS. It's interesting. It's interesting. The 700 does not depict at all. I don't need the P-type map on the Euro. I mean that kind of F-gen, and at this point you've wrapped in more cold air too. Upper air temperature 925s. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Those are your 925s. You're gonna really try to explain to me that's not snow right now? Like, look at this. Come on. Come on. You're gonna tell me there's gonna be that much of a warm air at the like this? Come on. That's preposterous. Look at that. Your 925s right there. Even Cape Cod. I like with that amount of forcing, I'd really have trouble trying to buy into. Like, how are you gonna tell me like this? Like Cape Cod is gonna be -3 at 925 in like a moderate, at least like moderate to heavier precipitation, and not snowing. Like that's ridiculous. So I think that's a little poo poo. So when you look under the hood here, you get the story. I mean, 850s too. You're if you typically like if you're -5 or below at 850, that's typically good enough. But you're -6 on Nantucket. That's plenty. That's plenty good enough. That's snow. I wonder what the GFS looks like. Upper air temps 925s. Yeah, so it's maybe a little bit closer. That's snow. Poo poo, even though the Euro is a higher resolution model. That's why I'm questionable, like the RGM showing as much warm air as it does there then. Look at that, that comes through. This area works itself through here. Kicks itself out. Still upper level energy has to work out. Yeah, this was a golden year for you ladies and gentlemen, especially in southeastern Mass. You want to look at the snow totals? Why not? Why not? It doesn't. I know it don't. It don't. It may not. It may not show. It may not show. Actually, it does show because the year was poof. You can see the difference there. IVT near Philly is big too. Euro really gets onto that. This area here says that's the area to watch. And as it departs, New York City to Jersey coast gets an inch or two. I think tell me if I'm wrong. I think New York City will settle for an inch or two at this point in December. I think that would be crazy not to be happy with that. All right, let's read off some comments. Before we break this down more, there's so much to talk about with this, in my opinion. 2020 Christmas was wild. We had like a foot of snow on the ground. Christmas Eve in Gulf washed away. I remember. Sparta, North Carolina. Sounds familiar. Hopefully you didn't get too affected by Helene. So hopefully your friends and family were fine during that as well. Euro is going to come more west later today. It's also going to be a big day with guidance today. It says Patriot Sun. Patriot Sun with some bold predictions. You know, you're very you state your opinion. You're aware of other people's opinions. Very respectful. I love how you operate with stating what you think is going to with a little bit of ego, but not enough to be an a-hole. So I appreciate you, Patriot Sun. I think you've been in here for some years now over the stream. So I appreciate you you coming on in here and joining. I appreciate all the rest of you in here with me as well. Guys, I gotta keep saying it, but it helps a ton. Hit that like if you haven't. If you're new, consider subscribing. And we're expanding here this winter. I mean, we've over the last just the last few days here, we've gained almost 40 subscribers, which is phenomenal. So I'm super thrilled about that on YouTube. And let's keep expanding here. Right, the production is better. The getting better too. Santa's gonna give me some goodies under the tree Christmas morning, so I'm excited about that. And we're gonna keep seriously, guys. I can't tell you. I really like there's really not a bad gene in my body when it comes to trying to forecast. Like there's no negative source of energy that comes from this stuff. It's generally all positive. Because it's either nothing, you can't take away what's already at. You can't take away snow. It's like it's just happening or it isn't. So I really appreciate all you guys that come in here. So it's really just like, oh, it's awesome that we get snow, and it's fantastic. Or or following severe weather, even obviously you don't want that stuff to happen, but it's fascinating to follow, and just it all comes from a very genuine spot. So I appreciate all of you that get to see what I do a little bit, and that you guys enjoy my analysis. I couldn't imagine myself even like 5 years ago being in the spot I am now with how I break down storms. So it's awesome. It's awesome. So I really can't thank you guys enough for coming on in here, looking the stream and commenting here on X and YouTube. It's awesome. So it's really again so much fun, and hopefully we can get a big storm soon, so we can get a lot more people in here and just have a great time forecasting. So yeah, CT with a snow hole in the, yes, I did say southwestern Connecticut, guys, that if I do have a snow hole prediction, it's this area right here, and you got to be careful too. I know my New York City folks don't like me drawing that close, but I would say Connecticut is kind of a western. I'd say southwestern Connecticut Southwest of Hartford, it might be a snow hole. Sorry. But Euro is interesting, man. I still think, I mean, we go back to that 500 look was beautiful. The run change on 500 was absolutely fantastic. Like, first of all, look at that. Like, typically, if we were pulling all this north, I'd be like, here to here, there's snow breaking out. Like, you go almost get a little bit, but it's not connected out here to the trough. So it kind of gets sheared out and extended, so you're not able to consolidate your mid-level dynamics as good as you need to. You can see it's kind of messy at 700, where there's your 500 look, and then 700, 500, 700, your 700. I would still say your 700, I think, is too, even though it's progressive, I think it's a little too far offshore on this 500 look. It's a little too offshore. This is where your 700 dynamics are. Your band is just west of that. It's always just west on 700. And that's where it is. I would lean a little bit closer here to the edge of the upper level energy. And I would likely say on this, your 700 would set up a little bit closer to here. And on this run, I think we'd see a little bit better consolidation. And then it would be a Cape Cod, Nantucket crush job. And again, since it can't fully wrap full tuck, and the energy is not either, this is not out, out here at this time, or this isn't further back southwest. So we're not seeing a full tuck and wrap here. So some of these dynamics kind of get stretched out a little bit. Otherwise, we'd be talking about we'd be talking about a massive snowstorm happening in this area, right? We'd be talking about a blockbuster. Oh, I wanted 700. And so you still see how it doesn't fully consolidate fully here at 700. And you have, it does. It's a tight, that's a strong area of lift right there in the atmosphere. But you still have all these mid-level dynamics out here, so you get preset. This is why the storm can be exactly what it is now on models. Like in terms of what they're showing at 500, the preset depiction won't be here. But they can show what they show now on models, and there's still going to be an area of snow that breaks out. I think what could happen is you could see a lighter area of preset breakout out ahead, and it's kind of widespread, and so everybody kind of gets into it in New England in the beginning potentially, and then if we start to see an area start to get more confined later in the storm, and then that's where those biggest snowfall totals end up being. But man, that's a band is going to offshore, and it's going to be strong. And since it is kind of connected out here to some of this warmer air, it does take a little bit for that cold air to wrap. So that's why some closer to the coast could start as rain potentially. But again, the more it's kind of an effect. If we do see this start to wrap tighter to upper level energy, in doing so, you're going to get more cold air sooner, also better ratios. So it's really a win-win. There's so many different like many details that can affect the end result here. But I am like the general logistics. It started to become really clear for me what's going to happen. I'm super confident in terms of what potentially, like what we're looking at in terms of what's on the table here. I think it's become very clear today and tonight what we're looking at. That doesn't mean though if you get something NAM like, scrap the playbook a little bit. Even then, you still get IVT, and maybe these dynamics are less consolidated, or they're more consolidated, so there's less that is less expansive, and that enhanced area isn't as prominent because more of the forcing is being focused closer to your best lift here and closer to the trough. But also then that means this gets pulled. further northwest. It's really a matter of how close. See around 700. Close? Not quite close enough. So I think models are holding on a little bit to the, I think models are holding on a little bit too much on the globals, in particular the GFS is holding on to some of that convection out ahead for too long, where the main show is going to be a little bit. This is the main show, all the 700 here. That is the main show. So yeah, North Carolina, going to be something there. Appalachians could get a pretty good snow event. What is the Euro show for Christmas? Yeah, dried muffin. This was a pretty decent shift on the Euro. Let me go to 500 and slide this. Yeah, Euro was, you can see it right here, this ball and socket of energy right there. Just like a hip comes on through. And maybe something after? Or is that too warm? No, not even after. The CAD kind of kills it there on Christmas, but flakes would be awesome on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, something light, and then you get another after that. CAD would hold. That CAD would hold for sure. That wouldn't be rain. That'd be snow for a lot more people. Look at that. Look how that CAD holds, man. That CAD does work. That CAD does work. I wonder down the line. So this CAD ends up holding so well, the warm-up never happens. The warm-up never happens in New England. And that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I got to keep an eye on that. You got to keep an eye on that. The high pressure that comes in behind it. How long is it? How big and how strong? That will be a very big key. Be very important. It would make it a little bit easier. It would make it a little bit easier for people. So when we do switch to the better in January, it would make it a little bit easier to get it going quicker. Because there's not a single rain event for really basically north of here. There is no rain on model runs here. And you can look at the P-type maps, just the general. We look at that. All that you have rain going into Canada. You have rain up here in Canada, and you end up getting freezing rain and snow in Pennsylvania and across here in New England. Your high pressure holds for so long that anything that comes through would be freezing rain and snow. So I'd be curious. I could take a shot in the dark here and say down the line, it's a conditional down line, that there could be a freezing rain set up to watch towards the end of the month after Christmas. There could be a freezing rain set up to watch, because you are going to have that high pressure there, and how long it stays, the GFS kicks it out quicker. The Euro has it stay for longer. So don't focus on exactly what models are showing on P-type and stuff, but just get the general sense that there could be high pressure that lasts for a good amount of time, and that can make things interesting. And I'd be wrong. I'm like kind of confident that the Pacific air kind of invades too much, and we don't see that happen, but it's possible. I'm going to go with that a little bit. I know some people think I like to forecast air solutions, but so there's an example to prove you wrong. Yeah, Mets enjoy again. Give respect for Juan Soto. Gotta respect it. Gotta respect it. Cohen, pull out the checkbook. Pay off. See, Jay Berg says, personally, more of a northwest. I think we see more of a northwest trend based on what past told us with these model runs. Of course, I could be wrong. You could be. Maybe not. Maybe you will be right. Only time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. Only time will tell. I'm excited. I think there is. I think there's an opportunity here for a good amount. I think there's a there's a floor with this system regardless now, and so that's what keeps me really have to be. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people here that are going to look over the details. You have to really look at the details of this system. So this is where I think I had an advantage as opposed to other people that forecast. Not saying I'm better, but these kind of systems is where I have an advantage, where all these little details here that you have to look at and break down, I do. I look at, I very rarely, at least like 90% of the details, very rarely. So I'm looking at everything that's happening. And again, this is not ego. I'm just literally telling you what I'm doing. This is what I do, especially when storms are happening. It's for most of the day, I'm looking at model runs and I'm trying to look at all these different details, run-to-run shifts, what happens, what does this mean, how does it change, does this change what I think going forward. I look at all the model runs. I see them all. Sometimes I'm busy and I look at them later. Or I'm sleeping. That's the only time I'm not looking at model runs with storms. And so this is where I feel like I have an advantage, where some people are going to miss this, is not looking at the details. And especially like people like they're just saying out to sea, it's not happening. Why are you give up, forecast to stop it. Like it's like you're just like, I don't even need to respond to it. It's like there's no, like you don't know me. You clearly haven't been around my page enough or my channel to know how I operate. You clearly realize that I really don't care about the fact that it's not going to be a blockbuster snowstorm. I just love forecasting the little details, and these events make me better as a forecaster as well, because I get feedback. The more storms that I forecast in depth, the more feedback I get from myself as a forecaster. That's why I love doing this. We're predicting the future here. Like, if you really think about it, isn't it kind of amazing how sometimes, I'm not talking about myself here, but isn't it kind of amazing how there's a forecast even like days out in advance? Imagine like 3 days out in, like, let's say like 1800, and you told someone, hey, 3 days from now there's going to be a foot of snow on the ground. Can you imagine that in 1800, like telling someone that, and they'd be like, no, that's not possible. How do you know? Like, isn't that like, we have models obviously, but can you like imagine that? It's like, I think it is so hard to forecast. It is so hard. Actually, it's really easy to forecast. It is hard to forecast well. It is very hard to forecast well. And I try to take as much pride as I can at forecasting well and just not forecasting. I have some fun, obviously, in the longer range. I had a little bit more fun and maybe gave, some of those higher end solutions a little bit more attention and focus than I usually do. It's just having fun. A lot of people haven't seen a big storm in a while, so I was just trying to have, keep it a light mood, just produce some, fun content a little bit. But even then, most I really wouldn't say much about it. I just put a meme, and that's really it. You guys know me. I do the analysis here, so that's why you guys like to come and interact, and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it so much fun. So that's why I love this stuff. I love this stuff. I can't really express to you guys how much I love the weather. It's one of my, I don't know if it's my greatest, which is amazing to say. It's amazing to say. Sports is probably my greatest passion, but weather is one of my is probably my second favorite passion. Yeah, I love this stuff so much. Like, however much you think you love it, I promise I love it more. I love this stuff, man. I love this stuff. There's nothing more rewarding now as a forecaster. Bloody SREFs. Yeah, we'll look at the SREFs. I guess the SREFs are more amped. Let's look at those. Stay with me here, and we can look at the SREFs in a second. But I love forecasting this stuff, guys. There is nothing more rewarding than especially when it hits you too. Oh, it's awesome. There's nothing more rewarding than seeing like predicting things like almost a week out in advance, days out in advance, following all the shifts and runs. And for me, it's fun too because I stay the course. You guys know that. I stay the course with this stuff. I don't. You guys know me. I don't change. I don't change the tune whatsoever, and it's typically from the beginning. And I relay the same message. And sometimes we get more confidence early on. Other times don't. This is one of those times we don't have any confidence. Yeah, that's why I love it. That's where these things where the models are so wrong. That's where I thrive. It's where I thrive because I know what I'm looking at 500, and I'm confident enough in my ability. And I've seen enough storms now since I've been doing this. I can say for years now that models don't change. Models change. The forecast doesn't, and that's how it works. What's going to happen is set in stone, guys. There's nothing we can do to change it, contrary to what some think. Models are going to model, but your forecast is ultimately it's going to be based off those models, but your forecast is what separates you from the models. Your human element and how you analyze and depict the data and use that based on past history and model and all your knowledge to make a forecast. So I truly love this stuff to get perspective. All right, Bloody says that the SREFs were even more amped. I find that hard to believe, but I'm going to prove you wrong. Maybe not. All right, so that's the interior. So you can minus 1 to 3 inches here in the interior from the SREFs. It's 10 to 1 as well. Oh, this was 21Z. It's the same. Sorry, I don't have the SREFs yet at here on Weatherbell. Are the SREFs available on Pivotal for free? They are. Weatherbell needs to. You got to kick it up a notch. Come on, Joe. I better not look at the max then. Celtics banner and pizza. I love snow and Boston sports, dude. You and I are very much alike. Very much alike. If that's the case for you, I can say the exact same thing. All right, let's take. Computer's running slow. All right, so you can take off an inch in Maine, and you can take, and you really don't have to take off much here. Now at this point, still running. Yeah, they are. Especially look at that in the southeastern New England too. They are more amped. I zoomed in, zoomed out. Should be a little better for you guys now. Yeah, the SREFs. Look at that. Weatherbell. Come on, I need this on Weatherbell now. What are we doing? 60. Let's take a peek here. I mean, whoa. That's a that is interesting. I don't like you got a Celtics banner 19. That's why I followed you now for 3 years. if you follow me, you start on X, CB19. That's what I'm gonna call you, CB19. Jaybird says, "Thank you for all this." You're very welcome. Thank you for continuing to come in. It is very much appreciated. These are impressive though. These are O3Z, so this is, yeah. Those are impressive. I checked that right, I guess. Yeah, near is definitely more. You're right, Bloody. The SREFs are juiced, maybe too juiced. But hey, if this were to happen, we know who was on top of it. We got to give the NAM full credit here if it does. So here's our list of people we give credit to. Drake Brett. Okay. Drake May, he's the future too now. Drake May, he's gonna be all-time great. I love Drake May. What is the SREFs? The SREFs is the NAM ensembles. So it's just a mean of the ensembles of the NAM. And so this is basically what it's saying. It's imagine like the GFS, the GFS and the Euro ensembles. This is like the NAM, ensembles as well. So yeah, I mean, we talked about it. People that troll, I just ignore. So that's how it works. Just how it works. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. I've had about 5 different accounts. Keep it because Twitter likes to log me out for something. Sorry, I still appreciate you coming. What is this? This is still 21Z. This is still 21Z. Watching the SREFs come out. This really doesn't impact my forecast too much, but it's fun to look at. I mean, that's some juice right there to the SREFs. Let's see, next 24 hours, what models do. Yeah, tomorrow's the make or break. Tomorrow is the make or break day, kind of. Look at the SREFs in Maine. Maine gets the band. Look at that on the SREFs. Means there's a double area where the band either gets here or here. I mean, these SREFs are juiced. These SREFs are juiced, man. So much that I can't really put anything on this. Like I can't use this for a forecast. But what I can do is tell you guys that if it does happen, the NAM the NAM wins this system. And if not, it just confirms that the NAM is the NAM. So the NAM's really in a win-win situation right now. That's pretty much it. The NAM is in a win-win situation. Yeah, that is a juicy run to run. Woof. Pivotal doesn't even show it as well on Weather Bell too. It's like a higher numbers on if the Weather Bell can lock in here and show me 03Z. It will at some point. Bubba News, how we doing, my man? How are we doing, my man? How was the Euro, Louis? We looked at the Euro. The Euro took a big jump. It was a pretty decent sized jump. It was right here. Yeah, we broke down the Euro pretty in depth here. Euro was a fantastic. Let me get to right? You get your snow, you get your snow that breaks out ahead of time out here, and I don't really care about the surface map, but it does amplify out ahead more, so you get your snow that breaks out here, right? So we know snow, there's going to be some sort of snow that breaks out in this zone ahead of time, along with whatever IVT happens in this area. And so what we saw with the Euro is that it amplified out ahead a little bit better, and so it consolidates a little bit, it slows it down, consolidates a little bit more closer to the upper level low, and you can see that the upper level low eventually does take over. And man, that's I mean, look at OZ compared to 18Z. We're dropping that. It's harder to see after the finished product, but you can see it more visibly in this part here where we're consolidating more a little bit better, and that allows, again, we're not looking at an all-out snowstorm here. That's not what we've been looking at. We're looking at snow potential for this area. And the Euro does kind of bomb. Actually, the Euro gets main involved here. The Euro gets main involved, so that's intriguing. Even as messy as it kind of was, I still think you see how the lows jumping around a lot too. It's definitely struggle. It's definitely struggling. Look where how the L keeps bouncing back and forth. So, and again, don't ever look at the L as the perfect. It's this whole, as the heater turns back on, it's this whole area of low pressure. It's this whole area of low pressure here. That's where so it places the L here, but this area of low pressure is all surrounding. So the Euro was kind of exactly what you want to see, especially if you're in southeastern New England. It's great for the mid-Atlantic, for Delmarva, New Jersey, PA, even New York City as it comes out. Gets a nice widespread, like 1 to 3 inches of snow for the inverted trough area, and then it's hard to say at the surface. I think it kind of messed up a little bit on the P-type map for up here, but I think this area, again, I keep looking at this area. That's what I'm looking at. Whatever happens, if it's just flakes, that's only a dusting, I will be happy. You're Boston? Boston? CB19? We can look at the Euro ensembles, I guess. Be a spread of hits, maybe. Can the SREFs freaking load, for its sake? God dang. Come on, Weatherbell. It was late with the Euro too today. The Euro is late today. That's not Weatherbell's fault, still. Did that. The SREFs, man. What was that? Last continuing. Last 3 runs. That's interesting. You live there in Boston. All right. Something's coming to Boston. At least some flakes. I don't know. I'm uncertain about accumulation along the coast yet for areas that aren't getting into some of that main action. But we can take a look at the Euro ensembles here. Let's see what we got cooking. That is the Euro itself. So let's go to ensemble. Vamos. See. We got slide left, slide to left, crisscross. All right. Cha-cha, real smooth. Euro, turn it up to the left. Y'all remember that? Y'all had to do that back in school today. I remember. Go to panels. These are 6-hour intervals here. Oh, I see some hits already. Again, it's just a spread. It's just a spread of different outcomes, so don't look at it too much. Don't hold on to it for dear life. But Euro, this is 1 through 25, so the Euro has a lot more members. And the Euro's got Oh boy, a good amount there. That's definitely more than it was earlier today. At least 12Z. I don't know. I forget if I looked at 18Z or not. It's loading out still too. Let me get a refresh. This has been a wild year. This is Bub News. I feel like every year is a wild. Every year takes on its own twist and turn. Its own twist and turns it takes on. And then you can see, look at the IVT kind of kick out and behind it too. Across New York City, Jersey, and a lot of these runs. That light area that moves. I'm telling you, this will be good accumulating snow too. I know it's harder to see, but you can see I draw on the backside here. This area that moves through, and all these models have it. All of these model runs have it. So I think this is your prevention program here. We can view it. Make sure that you at least get some. I don't know if you can bust when you don't have. I don't know if you can bust a snow event if you don't have a lot to actually look forward to. But all these runs show it. Every single one highlights the snow that comes on the backside for the northern mid-Atlantic in New York City. Every single one. These are 6-hour intervals too. Every single one of these shows it. This one's a little further north. Every single one, to some extent. We drew on every single one. And this is our happy ensembles too. Look at the other half in a second. Wouldn't mind seeing some snow on the subways for the Bulls in Chicago. You're going to Chicago, or is that just you just want to see? I don't know. Sorry, you confused me. There's some hits there. South England, there are some hits. There are definitely some hits. These are the first. I don't know how that compares to 18Zs, you guys, but yeah, they didn't. They really didn't have as many. There's definitely these EPs were definitely more juiced here. At least the first half. Let's look at the second. Remember, these are only the first half of members. So what makes the EPs, I think, the superior ensemble is it has. I guess the more is not always better, but if the GFS is not necessarily a better model, so it's 50, it's 25 more ensemble members and it's more perspective, more of a spread that covers, gives you a better idea of what could have a different scenarios. Oh, there's one. Some of these are quick hitters. Some of these are like real late bloomers with the snow. I don't know why it doesn't show it onshore earlier. It's confusing, to be honest. It doesn't show anything further south. Maybe struggling with rain with the rain snow line more than it should be. But there's definitely some hits there. You can see that the SREF's starting to make sense. You see the SREFs with the strongest mean. I mean, a lot of these Euro runs here highlight in this area here in southeastern and eastern New England. So the SREFs might be onto something, even if they're overamped. Even if they're overamped, the SREFs might be onto something here. I don't know how this looks. I really don't care too much for this, especially even as you get close. The closer you get, the less important this becomes. But I don't know how this actually is, but I like looking at it. Look at that. Matches the panels. You can see. This is not a forecast whatsoever. One thing models are convergent on that IB. You can use the ensembles you can use the snow map to pinpoint where they're best looking at the IVT. That's where it gives you just a better idea of where, not how much. That's where people mess up a lot of times looking at these snow maps. Eastern Long Island still in play for several inches. Man, I'm having a tough time seeing it unless you go all crazy, NAM. That's your only way, and that'd be a stretch. Like we might go back 06Z NAM, and it may come way back. Guys, 06Z is a big freaking, it's a important. We have downtrended. I don't like that word because I think it gets overused, and I think it's not cringe, but it's just, I think that word gets like so, especially in severe weather. Don't get me started with a lot of the way people use that word, but it gets overused in like a not the right sense. But I'll use it here. We have downtrended at 06Z for like 4 straight days now. 4 straight days now. We have downtrended, and I go to bed pissed looking at the 06Zs. So obviously I want more people to get snow too. I love to get more snow too as myself. Yeah, of course. I'm like, damn, come on. I have a lot of the same reactions to the model runs. I just don't let that affect my forecast. I'm not perfect at it. I don't think any meteorologist is ever perfect at that balance either. But I do my best to not let it affect the forecast as much as I do want. I want more people to get snow here. If there's gonna be snow, might as well be more of it. Even if I'm not getting the brunt, might as well be more for other people. I mean, dang. Because then it's more people happy in my mentions, and I love forecasting it too. We get more people to come in. It's awesome. I would say Long Island's at play for snow. I'm not even confident in accumulating snow yet for Long Island. But I'm really not ready to go, and the SREFs still aren't loaded on here on Weatherbill. That's frustrating. So what is your forecast? So what's my forecast at the moment? It's less than 40 hours out. I've set my. I don't have a good idea for specific snow totals yet. Give me a blank map. I think somewhere in this area here, this area has some enhancement, and then within that, I think this area here is kind of like at least a coding to 2, 1 to 3 potentially. I'm not totally in on totals quite yet, and I think this area somewhere in here gets enhanced as like a floor, and then in the higher end scenario, if you NAMmed, which I can't have any confidence whatsoever. This area especially, I have trouble seeing it making it out to here. But this area especially has a chance to overperform if you get a NAM or even close to a Euro. And then I think the ensemble perfectly highlights where I'm looking at. This comes through, especially on the backside. This comes through, and it's like a widespread, again, coded 2, 1 to 3, and then maybe there's an enhanced area within that of more snow, because on the backside, look what we do at our 920. We can go to our dendritic growth zone, which will be somewhere probably around 700 at the time. Upper air temperatures, I don't have 850 Fahrenheit. Come on, you serious? Oh, come on. Let me just go to a whole new weather belt, because on the backside we get colder. We can take off tidbits. Boom, boom, boom. show you exactly what I'm saying. The back half of the snow is going to be go to 700. We go to U.S. regions. We go to Eastern U.S. East, and look how see how cold we get here. Look at our 700s here. You want to be you get like, I mean, you're -10 at 700, then -15 here on Friday night. -15 at 700 here on Friday. I'm sorry, I don't know how it'd be super hard to rain in this scenario. You're getting so cold aloft now. I'm really having trouble seeing this being maybe at the coast that's this far inland. I really have trouble. Maybe up here in the bay, but this pulls out, so you'll have decent snow ratios and still upper level energy that needs to work through, so that way you get maybe 1 to 2 inches from this that comes through on the backside. You get inverted trough, and then as this works through, I mean, look at that. Look how cold you're going to be at 700 here, and this is part of your dendritic growth zone. -20 to -10 is your dendritic growth zone. Look at that, -17, minus to -20 at 700. Look at your 850s. 850s, you're almost -10 at 850 across lots of New Jersey. You're -10 to even almost -15 here in this region. You're going to get better. You're going to get better snow ratios on the backside, and it'll be able to accumulate easier than the beginning of the storm. So even though your surface temperatures might be closer to freezing, you can see your surface temperatures here are 30, 31. You're pretty cold aloft, and that will help significantly. And you might be, if you're that warm at the surface, then maybe the coast here is rain. But 35 with those temperatures aloft, it might be without the heavier precipitation. It could be more difficult, but especially under those heavier bands, I think this would produce on the backside. Especially would produce on the backside. And then here especially too, look at that, you get a little bit of a coastal front that sets up here. And so in here it'd be 20s. Everybody west of 95 would be 20s for southern New England, and you're snowing at that point too. It may not show here on the P-type map, but there you are, it shows it. You're snowing, and that's where you cash in. And then maybe some ocean effect too for Eastern Mass, Long Island potentially, as this comes through. And so that's why you get snow. That is the forecast that we've talked about now. And I've been forecasting this for days. I'm not trying to I'm just saying this. We've been consistent. We have been consistent with this idea that there's going to be a couple different areas to keep an eye on. And sorry, Connecticut, you just get booted as a potential snow hole here. There's a couple different areas that we've been keeping an eye on now. So listen, it's fine to it's perfectly fine to not agree with an opinion, but if you're just always gonna play contrarian and this is not for anybody specific, it's just anybody out there. But if you're just always gonna play contrarian when I'm clearly like what my ideas are, and when we're talking about different scenarios, and like you're also like specifically using wording that's like to get like a rise almost out of me, it's like that's where I become really uninterested, and I'm not going to really value much of what you have to say. It applies to everybody on X and YouTube, and it becomes really easy now to identify that for the most. I did struggle with whoever was Joe's person last night. It was not the same person that I thought it was. So I apologize to that person. I might have gone too soon, pulled the trigger too soon on him. I did. Uh, I brought him back, so don't worry about that. But Joey does come back. I apologize to that person. Actually, I don't apologize, but I don't need to for that. All right, SREFs, come on, come on. Oh my God, weather belt, they're out. Been out. That's fine. That's fine. It's been a while how the pattern change year over year. It has been wild. It has been. I think it's always wild though, a little bit. We're trending more wilder and wilder swings back and forth now. That's just kind of how we're trending. Definitely makes for some disappointment though, for sure. Over the past few years, I don't think too many people are happy with the winters that we've gotten. But maybe we change that around this winter. I want to see the ensembles here. These can get tricky looking at the Euro 500 78. That looks like the Euro AI. Yeah, that's what you want to see. Tuck this further. It's exactly what you want to see. Yeah, I mean, listen. Southeastern New England need monitoring, potentially what could happen. I mean, we can't say consistently over the past couple days there's been some back and forth, a little bit of windshield wiper, but past like 60 hours or so, there's been trends to continue to push this, at least close to the coast, that both precip for Southeastern New England. And so they should continue to keep an eye on that. And the prospects of that. But for everybody else, our forecast is, kind of remaining the same. It can adjust a little bit based on the changes that happen. But in one of those places that could really change in an extreme scenario would be like Long Island, for example, where if that NAM were like close to right, then Long Island would start getting into a jackpot zone, where as opposed to getting very little. And then after too, ocean effect comes through on the backside, so you got to watch out for that potential. But yeah, I think we covered everything pretty well in depth. So I'm gonna stay on X. I'm gonna keep going on YouTube here. Be on lookout for the replay with chapters if you want that. And if you haven't yet, hit that like button. It helps a ton. If you're new, you haven't already, consider subscribing. It helps a lot. I appreciate everybody that came in, and we're going to be streaming tomorrow night for sure again. And let's hope we get the changes the masses want. Maybe at this time tomorrow night we're looking at a crazy change. Maybe not. Maybe we go back the other way. Could happen.